The year is 1488. For thousands of years, the world's great civilizations have developed in parallel. China has its emperors. India has its kingdoms. Africa has its trading empires. Europe has its rival monarchies. And across the Atlantic, powerful American civilizations flourish without knowing that Europe even exists. The oceans separate them. But something is about to change. On the southern edge of Africa, Portuguese sailors are pushing into waters that appear on few European maps. Their ships are small. Their supplies are limited. Their crews are frightened. And ahead of them lies one of the most dangerous stretches of ocean on Earth. Far to the north, the Renaissance is transforming Europe. Artists study the human body. Scholars rediscover ancient texts. Printers reproduce books faster than scribes ever could. Kings still fight with swords. But information is beginning to move almost as quickly as armies. In England, the Wars of the Roses are approaching their final chapters. In the Ottoman world, a powerful empire continues expanding across the crossroads between Europe and Asia. In China, the Ming dynasty remains enormously wealthy and powerful. In Africa, caravans carry gold and salt across the Sahara, while the Songhai Empire rises along the Niger River. And in the Americas, Tenochtitlan and the Inca world are reaching extraordinary heights. Most of these people will never meet. They do not know one another. They cannot imagine the world that is coming. But in 1488, one Portuguese expedition is about to prove something revolutionary. Africa can be sailed around. The Atlantic is connected to the Indian Ocean. Asia may be reachable by sea. The old world map is about to become obsolete. And somewhere beyond the horizon, a new world is waiting. For generations, Portuguese sailors have been creeping down the western coast of Africa. One expedition goes a little farther. Another pushes beyond it. Cape after cape disappears behind them. The goal is simple: find a sea route to Asia. But Africa seems determined to stand in the way. In 1488, Bartolomeu Dias takes the gamble. His fleet sails southward. Then the weather turns violent. Instead of hugging the coastline, the ships are blown far out into the Atlantic. For days, the sailors cannot see land. They do not know exactly where they are. Then they turn east, and suddenly, land appears. But something is wrong. The coastline is running in a direction that should be impossible if Africa continues southward. Dias realizes what has happened. He has sailed around the southern end of Africa. The Atlantic is connected to the waters of the Indian Ocean. The barrier has been broken. The crew, however, is not celebrating as enthusiastically as Dias might wish. They are running low on supplies. They have sailed farther than almost any European navigator before them, and the sailors want to go home. Eventually Dias turns back. He names the dangerous cape Cabo das Tormentas, the Cape of Storms. King John II later gives it a much more optimistic name, the Cape of Good Hope. And the name says everything, because this discovery changes the future. A direct sea route from Europe toward India is no longer a fantasy. The route still needs to be completed, but the impossible has become possible. The ocean has opened, and European ships have found the doorway. The next generation will sail through. While Portuguese sailors are fighting storms at sea, another revolution is happening on land. Europe is changing. In Italy, the Renaissance is transforming the way educated people think about art, science, politics, and humanity. In Florence, Venice, Milan, and other wealthy cities, merchants finance artists and architects. Painters experiment with perspective. Engineers study machines. Scholars search ancient manuscripts for forgotten knowledge. And then there is something even more powerful. printing. Johannes Gutenberg's invention has already begun spreading across Europe. Books no longer need to be copied entirely by hand. Thousands of pages can now be reproduced. Knowledge can travel. Ideas can travel. Arguments can travel. And unfortunately for kings, there's so can criticism. Europe's political world remains far less peaceful. In England, the Wars of the Roses have torn the nobility apart. Lancaster fights York. York fights Lancaster. Nobles change sides. Kings are overthrown, then restored, then overthrown again. By 1488, the conflict is approaching its final chapter under the Tudor dynasty. The English nobles have spent decades proving one very important principle. If you have enough cousins, you can start a war. Meanwhile, in France, royal authority is becoming stronger. In Spain, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile are preparing to finish the centuries-long struggle against Granada. And across Europe, monarchies are becoming increasingly centralized. The old feudal world is changing. Kings are building stronger governments. Merchants are accumulating enormous fortunes. Printers are spreading information. And navigators are searching for new routes. The Renaissance is not simply an artistic movement. It is part of a much larger transformation. Europe is becoming richer, more ambitious, more competitive, and increasingly interested in what lies beyond its borders. The world is getting smaller, even if Europeans have not realized it yet. 35 years have passed since the Ottoman victory at Constantinople. The city has been transformed. What was once the capital of the Byzantine Empire is becoming the centre of a new Ottoman world. The empire stretches across 2 continents, Europe on one side, Asia on the other, and between them, the Bosphorus. This geography gives the Ottomans enormous strategic power. Caravans move through Anatolia. Ships cross the Black Sea and Mediterranean. Merchants carry silk, spices, metals, textiles, and luxury goods across ancient routes. But the Ottoman Empire is not alone. To the east, powerful Muslim states compete for territory. In Persia, the political landscape remains fragmented. In Egypt and Syria, the Mamluk Sultanate remains a major power. And farther east, Central Asia is still shaped by the legacy of Timur. The world of 1488 is therefore a complicated web of rival empires. No single civilization controls everything. Yet the Ottomans are becoming increasingly important because they sit directly between the world's great economic zones. That creates both opportunity and tension. European merchants want access to Asian goods. Asian merchants want access to Mediterranean markets. Ottoman rulers want taxes from both. Everyone wants the same thing, profit. And this creates an amusing problem. A merchant may spend months crossing deserts and mountains, only to discover that another official is waiting at the next gate asking for another tax. The medieval world's version of customer service was simple: pay the toll, or turn around. But underneath the jokes is a serious transformation. The Ottoman Empire is becoming one of the great powers of the coming age, and Europe is beginning to search for ways around it. The Portuguese will try the ocean. They are about to discover whether the sea is cheaper than the road. Far from the Atlantic storms of Portugal, Asia remains home to some of the world's greatest civilizations. In China, the Ming dynasty rules an enormous empire. Beijing is the political heart. The imperial court commands a sophisticated bureaucracy. Chinese cities produce porcelain, silk, metalwork, books, and countless other goods. But something has changed since the days of Zheng He. The enormous treasure fleets are gone. China has not become weak, far from it. Instead, the Ming state is concentrating more heavily on internal administration, agriculture, defense, and its northern frontier. The world's greatest maritime expeditions have become memories, yet Chinese merchants continue operating across Asian waters. To the southwest, India presents a completely different political picture. There is no single Indian empire controlling the entire subcontinent. Instead, powerful kingdoms and sultanates compete. In southern India, Vijayanagara remains one of the wealthiest states of the region. Its capital is enormous. Temples rise above crowded markets. Merchants trade horses, diamonds, spices, textiles, and precious stones. And armies constantly compete for territory. The Deccan is a political chessboard. One ruler gains a fortress, another loses it. A third ruler suddenly becomes everyone's best friend because he has horses. Politics can be surprisingly practical. Across the Indian Ocean, Arab, Persian, Indian and African merchants continue connecting ports from East Africa to Arabia and South Asia. The ocean is already a global highway, but Europeans are only beginning to understand its possibilities. The irony is striking. China once sent huge fleets westward. Now Portugal is trying to reach the same ocean from the opposite direction. Two worlds are approaching the same crossroads, without yet knowing they are coming. While Portuguese sailors are battling storms thousands of kilometers away, Japan is fighting a very different kind of battle. Not against foreigners, against itself. The Ashikaga shogunate still exists in 1488, but its authority is weakening. The devastating Onin War has already torn Kyoto apart. Temples have burned, noble families have been divided, and powerful regional warlords known as daimyo are increasingly doing what they want. The shogun may still sit in Kyoto, but outside the capital, obedience is becoming optional. Japan is entering the turbulent world traditionally associated with the Sengoku period. And then in 1488, something extraordinary happens in Kaga province. A powerful religious movement known as the Ikko-Ikki rises against the local lord, Togashi Masachika. Their followers include monks, farmers, local warriors, and ordinary people. They are organized, they are determined, and they have numbers. Masachika returns to Kaga expecting to restore his authority. Instead, he finds himself surrounded. His position collapses. He ultimately dies by seppuku at Takao Castle. The result is astonishing. For generations, Japanese politics had been dominated by warriors and aristocratic families. Now a religious movement has effectively taken control of an entire province. Kaga becomes known for what later generations call the Kingdom of Peasants. It is one of the strangest political experiments of medieval Japan, and it reveals something important. Power is no longer guaranteed by birth. A lord can lose his castle. A shogun can lose his authority. And ordinary people can become a political force. Japan's future will be shaped by ambitious warlords, samurai armies, and eventually unifiers. But in 1488, the message is already clear. The old order is breaking, and Japan is about to enter one of the most dramatic centuries in its history. While Japan fragments into rival territories, another story is unfolding across Africa and the Americas. In West Africa, the Songhai Empire is becoming one of the most powerful states on the continent. Its ruler, Soni Ali, has built an expanding empire along the Niger River. Cities such as Gao and Timbuktu are centres of trade, scholarship, and Islamic learning. Gold moves north, salt moves south. Camel caravans cross the Sahara carrying goods between distant civilizations. The journey is brutal, heat, sandstorms, thirst, and occasionally a camel that apparently has decided it has had enough. But merchants keep coming. because the profits are enormous. Farther east, the Swahili coast connects African ports with Arabia, Persia, India, and the wider Indian Ocean. Cities such as Kilwa grow wealthy through maritime trade. African gold, ivory, and other goods move outward. Indian textiles and Asian luxuries move inward. In Ethiopia, a powerful Christian kingdom continues to survive in the highlands. And across the Atlantic, completely separate civilizations are flourishing. In the Valley of Mexico, Tenochtitlan has become an enormous island capital. Its canals carry boats through crowded neighborhoods. Its markets overflow with cacao, cotton, feathers, food, pottery, and obsidian. The Aztec Empire is expanding. Far to the south, the Inca Empire continues growing through the Andes. Stone roads cross mountains. Terraces transform steep slopes into farmland. Administrators organize distant provinces. Yet none of these civilizations knows what is approaching. Portuguese sailors are rounding Africa. European kingdoms are searching for new routes. And somewhere across the Atlantic, an enormous continent remains almost completely unknown to Europeans. In 1488, these worlds still seem impossibly far apart, but the distance is about to disappear. The ocean that separates them will soon become the road that connects them. And when that happens, history will never be the same. By the end of 1488, the world has not yet become truly global, but the first great doors are opening. In Africa, Portuguese sailors have reached the southern tip of the continent. The Atlantic and Indian Ocean are no longer separated by an unknown coastline. The route toward Asia has become a possibility. In Europe, printing presses are multiplying books. Renaissance artists are transforming cities. Kings are building stronger governments. And ambitious sailors are looking beyond the edge of familiar maps. To the east, the Ottoman Empire controls Constantinople and the crossroads between Europe and Asia. Ming China remains one of the world's greatest powers. India's kingdoms compete for wealth and territory. Japan is fragmenting into a turbulent world of daimyo, samurai, and religious leagues. Across Africa, Songhai dominates important West African trade routes, while Swahili merchants connect the continent to the Indian Ocean. And across the Atlantic, the Aztec and Inca civilizations continue to flourish. Most people alive in 1488 have never heard of one another. They cannot imagine their distant cities. They cannot read each other's maps. They have no idea that their worlds are about to collide, but the pieces are moving. Dias has rounded Africa. Portuguese ships are learning the Atlantic. European monarchs are searching for new sources of wealth. And somewhere in Spain, another navigator is making an extraordinary proposal. He wants to sail west, across an ocean that seems impossibly vast. He believes he can reach Asia. He is wrong. But his mistake will change the world. The year 1488, therefore, stands at the edge of something enormous. The old world still exists, but its boundaries are beginning to disappear. The oceans are becoming roads, the maps are becoming obsolete, and humanity is approaching an encounter unlike anything that came before. The world is about to open.